Karen thought she could block my driveway forever. She didn't know I had a plan that would erase her car forever. Every morning, I woke up to the same sight. Karen's rusty SUV sitting across my driveway, like a stubborn boulder. She lived across the street but claimed she had nowhere else to park. I had called the HOA, filed complaints, and even spoken directly to her. But she just smirked and told me to walk around it. Her defiance wasn't just inconvenient, it was deliberate. I knew she wanted to get under my skin, and truthfully, it was working. That was until I decided enough was enough. I wasn't just going to move her car. I was going to remove it. When I complained to the HOA board, they gave me their usual canned response. We'll look into it. I'd been a member for years, paying my dues on time, yet they seemed to bend over, backwards for Karen. She was friends with the HOA president's wife, which explained why my complaints went nowhere. They claimed it was a neighbor dispute and refused to enforce parking rules. Meanwhile, they fined me once for leaving my trash bin out too long. It was clear the HOA wouldn't help. If I wanted this problem gone, I'd have to take matters into my own hands. I started watching Karen's routine. She left for work around 9 a.m. but returned before lunch, leaving her SUV parked in my driveway for hours. Sometimes she didn't move it all day. I also noticed she never locked her car, probably thinking no one would dare touch it in our safe neighborhood. She even kept a spare key tucked under the front seat. The more I observed, the more I realized this wasn't just rudeness, it was arrogance. And arrogance can be used against a person. I didn't want revenge for the sake of revenge. I wanted her to learn a lesson. One Friday evening, after watching her SUV idle in my driveway for the 10th time that week, my mind finally pieced together a plan. It would require timing, precision, and the help of a friend who owed me a favor. The goal wasn't to damage her car, it was to make it vanish permanently. I knew a towing company owner who also happened to run a scrapyard. He didn't ask many questions. If I could get Karen's SUV to his yard, it would disappear faster than the HOA's excuses. But first I had to get my hands on her keys. That Saturday, Karen hosted a backyard barbecue. Half the neighborhood was invited, except me, of course. But she had left her car parked directly across my driveway again. While she was distracted with guests, I accidentally dropped by to return a package that had been delivered to my house by mistake. As she turned to greet another guest, I slipped inside, pretending to place the box on her counter. In reality, I reached under the driver's seat of her SUV and grabbed the spare key. It was almost laughable how easy it was. The first step of my plan was complete. I spent the rest of the day acting normal. The key burned in my pocket like a secret I could barely keep. My friend Tony, the tow company owner, was on standby. He told me his flatbed truck could swing by at 2 a.m. when the neighborhood was silent. I pretended to watch TV, counting the minutes until it was time. Karen's SUV sat there smugly as if daring me to act. What she didn't know was that this would be the last time it blocked my driveway. I wasn't just moving her car, I was erasing it from her life. At exactly 2 a.m., Tony's truck rolled up, its engine barely audible. I unlocked Karen's SUV and shifted it into neutral, guiding it silently onto the street. Tony backed the flatbed up, and within minutes, the SUV was strapped down and ready to go. No alarms, no barking dogs, not a single light turned on in the neighborhood. It was as if the world itself had conspired to help me. I handed Tony the key and told him, "Make it disappear." He smirked and said, "By morning, she'll be filing a police report." And just like that, the SUV was gone. The next morning, I woke up to shouting outside. Karen stood in the middle of the street, phone in hand, screaming at a police officer. "It was parked right here," she cried, gesturing toward my now clear driveway. I sipped my coffee from the porch, feigning confusion. The officer asked if I'd seen anything, and I shrugged. "Not a thing, officer. Been inside all night." Karen's face was a mix of rage and disbelief. Without her precious SUV, she looked powerless. The HOA president arrived minutes later, offering her sympathy, but there was nothing they could do. The SUV was gone for good. The police filed a stolen vehicle report, but without surveillance footage or witnesses, there wasn't much to go on. I made sure of that. Tony had taken the SUV directly to his scrapyard, where it was dismantled within hours. No VIN plates, no traceable parts, just scrap metal. Karen began plastering missing vehicle flyers around the neighborhood, offering a $500 reward. I couldn't help but smile at the irony. For months, she had made my life miserable, and now she was the one chasing shadows. The best part? No one else in the neighborhood missed that ugly, rusted eyesore. To my surprise, the HOA didn't call a meeting or send out warnings. In fact, they avoided the subject entirely. I suspected they didn't want the embarrassment of admitting they'd ignored my complaints for so long. Karen tried to push them into investigating further, but without evidence, they had no leverage. She even accused me directly during a neighborhood gathering, but I simply raised my eyebrows and asked, "Do you have proof?" That shut her up, at least in public. Privately, I knew she suspected me, but suspicion without evidence is nothing more than gossip. With her SUV gone, Karen was forced to borrow her sister's small sedan. Interestingly, she began parking in her own driveway every day. It was as if losing her car had finally made her realize that parking etiquette mattered. She avoided me entirely, no longer making snide comments or smirking when we passed each other. It was strange, peaceful even. I could finally pull into my driveway without weaving around her vehicle or calling the HOA. It felt like a small victory in a long, frustrating battle. And unlike most victories, this one came with no chance of retaliation. A week later, I met Tony at his scrapyard to settle our deal. Instead of cash, I helped him install new security lighting around the yard, a project he'd been putting off. He laughed, saying, "I think we both came out ahead on this one." I agreed. Karen's SUV was now just a pile of unrecognizable metal, and I had my driveway back. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about reclaiming my space and peace of mind. Sometimes, the best payment isn't money, it's the satisfaction of seeing a problem vanish without a trace. Word spread quickly that Karen's car was stolen and never recovered. While no one accused me directly, I noticed neighbors were friendlier toward me. Perhaps they'd secretly disliked Karen's behavior, but never wanted to confront her. Now, without her constant parking battles, the neighborhood felt calmer. Even the HOA seemed more attentive to complaints, sending out reminders about proper parking etiquette. It was almost amusing. Karen's loss had become the community's gain. And as far as anyone knew, it was just an unfortunate crime in a safe neighborhood, a mystery no one would ever solve. Months later, Karen bought a used pickup truck, but she never parked it near my driveway, not once. She even started keeping it in her garage. I knew she was still bitter, but she'd learned her lesson the hard way. Every time I saw her driving past, I couldn't help but think of that night. She might have suspected me forever, but she could never prove it. And that was the beauty of the plan. It was clean, silent, and permanent. In my mind, the scoreboard read, "Me 1, Karen 0." Looking back, I realized that dealing with difficult neighbors isn't always about confrontation. Sometimes the smartest move is the quiet one. The HOA had shown me they couldn't or wouldn't help. That left me with two options: live with the problem or solve it myself. I chose the latter. And while my method wasn't exactly legal, it was effective. The important thing was that it ended the cycle of petty harassment. The driveway was mine again, and so was my peace of mind. Now, when I pull into my driveway after a long day, I see nothing blocking my way. No rusty SUV, no smug neighbor, just a clear open path. It's a small thing, but it feels like freedom. I know some people would say I went too far. Maybe they're right. But I also know that if I hadn't acted, Karen would still be blocking me today. And every time I park my car without having to maneuver around hers, I remind myself sometimes you have to take control of your own driveway and your own life.